Oh gosh, well, it started off as a monologue that I wrote when I was 23 years old, and at that time it was just sort of a stream of consciousness piece about a young black gay man walking around New York wondering why life was so terrible. And over time it evolved into a one-man show that I did one night only, that had a couple of songs in it at Ars Nova, and then from there it started to transition into more of a book musical. And from there, it just kept evolving. It took on the identity of having all black and queer people in it, which was not how it was originally. And so it's had quite a few evolutions over the years.
I saw a reading in 2016, right after Trump was elected, and I always say it gave me hope, it gave me purpose, it gave me something to strive for, to move Michael's work forward. I never believed it would be commercial. I thought we'd do it off Broadway, and that was all we thought we'd do. And the show just took off in all the most beautiful ways. So I do feel we followed the path of the show. We never led the show. The show led us. And the show, we did it at Playwrights, and it was hugely successful. And then, the pandemic, and Michael won the Pulitzer, and so we went to Woolley, and then, we got a Broadway theater. And all along, it's like, the theater gods have looked out for us and said, we need more people want to see this show, until we finally got to this point here on Broadway. It's truly the most amazing thing. Because
must not discount this woman's savvy and her clear-eyed focus, and not being distracted by anything, and just really doing everything that like a writer would want a producer to do, and listening and asking, do you want to do this, or you don't want to do that, or we think this is a good idea, or that's not a good idea, and being a real partner and making me want to be a real partner with her. So like, I have to give it up to this lady.
we've had a great partnership. We
Yes,
really have.
very much so.
The whole team. We've been together for a lot of years, and we've worked with a lot of wonderful nonprofits, and so it's been for everyone who did this show. It was always a labor of love. It was always something they believed in, and they was supported, and they wanted to push forward, even though many people said,
Hell no. Hell no. What they said.
that's what they said.
It means a lot especially because when I started writing this piece, I was writing it for my quote unquote self at a time when I felt no one was listening, could see me. Mm. And so that I was able to continue to work on something over an almost 20-year period, and with a group of other people who often also felt that way, and that we then were able to take that story to a stage and then share that with audiences who also felt that way. Mm-hmm. To me, it spoke to the power of art and theater to bring people together, to let everybody sort of in on the secret that we're not alone, and that there's more that unites us than divides us.
The thing I hope people take away from A Strange Loop is just the human condition, and the feelings of wanting to belong and find yourself and have relationships with yourself that are positive is so universal that I hope everybody sort of walks away going, yeah, I can feel those things, you know?
For me, it was a very personal, there was so much of it that I sort of researched just in my own sort of living life that I brought to the design. So for me, it was just it touched on a lot of personal things for me, and I was immediately hooked.
And for me, it's just how real it is. You always want to work on a musical that is real, and it doesn't always happen that way. So there's really nothing
it's
like
very
this.
Rare. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
We all, literally, it got silent, you know what I mean? Yeah. In a good way. It's silent right now as I speak to you, because we're just walking. We're just walking through it and leaning into a word called joy. And knowing that it's real. You're being supported. It's okay. People are cheering you on. They love the message. People are recognizing love is okay. People are recognizing telling the truth on stage in a musical is okay, because they're realizing that this really is the most elite form of communication. Musical theater. So it's like real life set to Disney tunes, so to speak.
I would say the last musical I did was Fun Home. And it gave me the courage to do Strange Loop. The more you do it, the more you get the courage. And so I learned a lot on Fun Home. I applied a lot of those lessons to Strange Loop. And now I can take the lessons and apply them going forward. So definitely for me as a producer, the more you can make it happen and the more it works, the more it gives you the courage to try again with something that might be even riskier or more unusual.
And similarly, I remember going to see Fun Home at the Public, and being pretty jaded about musical theater at that time. And then when I saw that show, I was like, oh yeah, there are still people out here who are kind of going out on a limb and doing something different. And that gave me a little push to keep working on A Strange Loop as well. And I didn't even know that Barbara was a producer at that time. And so we recently honored her at Page 73's benefit, and Janine's, or at least, no, Lisa got up to talk about like her experience of working with Barbara, and it was very similar to mine. And so you see how all these things are interconnected, and that when you really communicate with each other, artists and producers and collaborators, that you can do really great things, and especially when you're not operating from a place of fear. And that's been like, for me, like the greatest part of this experience, working with Barbara.
And to turn the thoughts off in your head.
Yes, turn the thoughts off in your hair that are like, it's gonna fail, it's not commercial, it's too this, it's not enough that.
Right.
I heard all of that, like all my years of work, and then standing in the back of the Lion King all those years. Oh my goodness, and being like, oh, I will never ever be on this stage, because of my little thoughts and the guardians of musical theater centrism telling me it has to be a this, you need a charm song, like all these things. So I could go on and on.
I was truly surprised, and the second, and her category was next, and you were last in that nomination list. So I was just like begging and pleading that her name be announced, and it was ecstatic. It was like Christmas morning. No, like
Honestly, every step of the way, I'm like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening.
It's
Like
all
we're gonna
surprise.
walk right off this red carpet and be like, it's happening.
Right.
Like,
Yes. Every step of this is a surprise. I'm like, I'm just grateful to be here.
I literally wept as everybody, like I was in the Delta Sky Club flying home, like watching the nominations, and all of our friends are nominated.
Yeah, not
so
just Strange Loop,
we
but
were
like
just
everyone,
weeping.
our colleagues, friends are all nominated for their respective shows. So it's just a fun get together.
Someone told me that I should write down my speech, and I didn't do that, and it was a mistake. But I'm always an authentic person. You saw my authenticity up there. So there's people also told me to be myself. So it's a strange loop. Write down your speech, but also be authentic. I have no idea, because I was so self-conscious about the first one that I was like, I just got to throw in everything that I forgot. But probably just that I think it was something along the lines of just being so heartened by the fact that this community and so many people and audiences, people been flying in from all over, had sort of taken this unlikely story to heart, and that it's just sort of paying forward everything that's in it, that like it's spreading, like it feels really like people talk a lot about inclusion, but it's like that. There's something active in that people are sort of taking the story and making it their own, and that just feels so gratifying to me. Something along those lines. I would say my mom and dad, who are here tonight. I also didn't get to like thank them in the speech because I was so like freaked out. My parents laid the groundwork for me to have a life in the arts, even when it didn't make sense for them to do that. And like, even for all the years that I like didn't know what I was doing, I couldn't tell them that anything I was gonna do was gonna pay off, but they stood behind me and they supported me and they encouraged me. And they, to me are for whatever struggles we might have had in our lives when I was younger, they had consistently been like a bedrock in my life. Their love for me is so strong. And that has been inspirational to me, to know that I always had them at my back no matter what's going on. My thoughts are telling me to write some more musicals and to try to widen the lane even more for what kind of shows can be seen by audiences. And that it's okay to be weird. Yeah. Hope so. It feels that way. But I think I'm also speaking just even on like a more basic level of like that, a lot of times so many artists operate from a place of fear and risk aversion, and producer and so many people. And, one thing that I will say about me and my work, even when I felt my most alone, is that I was always fearless about art. And so what I'm hoping is that people seeing the show, young artists seeing the show, young writers, young actors, everybody who's interested in musical theater, then maybe they'll feel a little less afraid to be weird and to step out and to try something different and try something new, and that producers will encourage them and support them and give them the resources they need. That's what we just have to try. Joni Mitchell has this lyric. Joni Mitchell's one of my inner white girls. Joni Mitchell has this lyric where she says, you've got to try. If you're feeling contempt, then tell it. If you're tired of the silent night, Jesus will then yell it. Like she's saying, like, just do it. Just fucking do it. And that's like how I feel about making theater and making art, because the world is so crazy and it's so, can be so narrow and so conservative that I'm like, if art is like the place where you can do literally anything, do literally anything. And so that's what I hope that message sort of gets out to other people in the arts community and people wanting to work in the arts community.